Happy Thanksgiving. Homework 10 will be due November the 27th, so by 9 p.m. on Tuesday. This is a little bit of a departure away from writing Project 3, meant to, I suppose, give you a little bit of a break from posting information to us about whatever it is you're doing, but whatever it is you're doing, you should continue to do it. Okay, so homework 10, basically, have you ever written a resume before? Have you ever written a letter of application for a job before? If you have, dig up those old files and see what kinds of improvements you can make this week. And if you haven't, well, it's time to get a move on. One of these days, you will need a job. That's my guess. Okay, so again, this week, November 27th, homework 10 is due by 9 p.m. And Thursday, November 29th by 9 p.m., you're to read your group members' work and give them some helpful feedback on their job materials. So here we go. Your tasks for the week will be to read and take notes on Chapter 16 in your textbook. This chapter is about the job search. You want to read it. It gives you a lot of helpful information about how to format things and what things are supposed to look like, and, you know, what kind of tone to take up in these kinds of materials. So it's good stuff, and you will want to read it. This week, you'll be working on your own job materials as yourself. Do not write for your made-up organization, but I have a few caveats there. First, you're expected to write as though you already have your bachelor's degree, okay? So it's kind of a fake-ish resume, but maybe it'll be true in a couple of months, I don't know, or a couple of years. Hopefully somewhere between those 2 points. Second, if the job ads that you find, if they all require, say, 1 to 3 years of work experience, then, you know, you can kind of fudge that. Give a little bit of fake information. You know, this is not a true situation where I'm an employer that's seeking candidates for a job. So, you know, you've been doing this for a long time now, writing in a slightly artificial world. So I think you can do it once more with job materials. So you can pretend that you have a couple of years of work experience, even if you don't. Okay. Third, this homework is, as I said, a departure from the writing project, but you should still be developing writing project 3, you know, finding sources as you need them, developing the sections, you know, just kind of use your time well, so that you're not suddenly trying to pour out all of this stuff at the last minute, because you probably know by now that waiting to the last minute is not the way to get the best writing done. Okay, so for homework 10, you will submit a job ad that you find online, and you will submit your resume and your cover letter. Cover letters can also be called job letters. And these are the kinds of documents that you present to an employer when you're applying for a job. Okay, so here we go. The task for preparing these documents. I recommend that you look for real job ads because it can give you maybe some information that you don't already have about the jobs that you'll be looking for when you graduate. So search the internet for job ads. Just open up Google, right? Also, you'll want to look for statements to novices in the field. Most of your job field areas, the professionals in your field, they form organizations, they develop websites, they give you lots of tips and information, tell you about your field, tell you what the working conditions are like, and it is good to know these things, okay? So inform yourself. That's my biggest piece of advice when you're preparing to apply for a job. The more information you have about your employer and what your duties are going to be, the better. When you write these documents, you do not want to sound like, you know, like little puppy who just says, you know, love me and tell me what to do. Employers are not impressed by that kind of expression. You want to sound like you're already in the field. You want to sound like somebody who already knows the job and doesn't need a lot of time to be supervised and developed. So informing yourself goes a really, really long way. All right, so these are my suggestions. First, search for 2 job ads and look widely in the geographical sense. If the job is in Germany, read the job ad. If the job is in New York, read the job ad. You don't need to find one that's in Fresno County or Tulare County just because you live there, because the chances that your particular job happens to be available where you live right now are fairly slim. The job will come available where you live eventually, but it may not come available the day that you go looking in Google. So search for job ads widely in the geographical sense and narrowly in the job description. Save the job ad that you will apply for, quote unquote, because I'm thinking you're probably not really applying for jobs that requires a bachelor's degree at the moment, but possibly some of you are, because you might be getting ready to go. So save the job ad that you will apply for, save it as, Word file, PDF, but something that you can modify, right? Not a permanent file. And Word files, Google Docs files are very good for that. So you can just, copy and paste that into Word or into Google Docs. Because you're going to submit it with your homework. You want your partners and you want me to be able to see what is the job that you're applying for. If you cannot find an ad for the exact job that you're preparing for, then find an ad for the closest sort. Maybe you qualify for Assistant 1 in computer graphics, but there's no job for Assistant 1, so you find an ad for Assistant 2, whatever it is, but something as close as you can get. Okay. Study the qualifications and the duties listed in the job ad. Find other documents describing the job. Go to the employer's website. A lot of times employers give you like an About Us or a mission statement or something like that. You want to read those things because you want to know, how does the company and the employer conceive of herself, himself? What kind of work do they think that they are doing? What are their goals? What are their purposes? What are their values? Because when you write these kinds of documents, you want to be able to demonstrate that you fit in, that what they want is what you want. And it's also a very good idea to make sure that that's true. Try to find job ads for places where you do share their purposes, their goals, their interests. And prepare a very brief resume and cover letter. Okay, if you have an old resume and cover letter, then you can modify those a bit to suit the job ad that you find. If you do not have these things, then you should write them using your textbook's advice. I am expecting you to apply for jobs that require your bachelor's degree, so you're going to fudge a little bit there and pretend that you have one. I am not expecting you to apply for jobs that require work experience, unless you actually have that experience, and I know some of you do. But that said, again, if you don't find any ads that don't require experience and you have no experience, then you can fudge that a little bit to say that you've worked in a hospital or what have you. And these documents should be really short. They should be short anyway, but for our purposes, half a page to a page is perfectly fine. You don't want to go too much over that, and I don't think you'll be going under that. It's possible. Okay, all right, so that's what you're going to do, and you'll find that the chapter 16 is really, really helpful on this. It's got model job letters and resumes for you. And also my advice here, well, it's advice from the book, and it's good advice. As you compose your job letter, you need to think about the audience that's going to be looking at that. Usually they have a weeding out process in the beginning, and either those job materials go directly to human resources officers, or sometimes they even go to a computer program for reading, so that the computer can check off boxes and see if you use the right words. So it gets a little funny, but they do this first to weed out how many documents actually have to be read by your employer or your hiring committee. And this may surprise you, but employers very considerably more fussy about grammar errors than I am. It's true. So for my purposes, I don't mind so much if you've, put things together and it makes sense and it's good, but just so that you know, when you go out in the world of work, grammar errors in job applications can be the difference between getting an interview and not getting an interview. They really can. Because an employer, for example, could consider, if you're not careful enough to correct your errors on your job materials, maybe that indicates an overall carelessness, right? So if they have an excuse to take you out of the pile, they might well do it. Okay, and there's more information here, and it's in your textbook about how to organize it, how to format it, how to make yourself sound like an ideal candidate. You do want, of course, you're working on bachelor's degrees, so you need to frame your college experience meaningfully. You need to be able to explain how that contributes to you as an employee, a potential employee, a candidate for professional work. All right, so the rest of the information is in there, and happy Thanksgiving. Have a great week.